thanks once again for dropping by the channel. If you like the content, if you're new to the channel, please hit subscribe, share the video if you feel it's useful. All that really does help support this channel. Now let's get into this. So we're in 2020 now, and a lot of people are talking about, what fights are going to get made, who's going to fight who, and people who are up and coming. We love the prospect talk. We love hearing about, fighters who are coming through. Maybe some of them going under the radar, some of them aren't, but we love hearing about, who's kind of doing what. Now, I talked about Daniel Dubois last week. I said that he is a problem, not in the sense of kind of boxing related. I think that physically he's all there. I think, he's got a very good, boxing fundamentals, good power. All that stuff is good. But I think promotionally, and kind of fights getting made, there's a bit of an issue there. Maybe he's not with the right promoter, etc., etc. I also done one with Joseph Parker, where I alluded to something similar. Obviously with Joseph Parker, he's a bit more established than Daniel Dubois, so with him it was just kind of, where is he going? He's a 3-fight deal, he's a 1 fight down, where is he going? Who is he going to be in there with? Stuff like that. Now I'm touching on a fighter from the States, not originally from the States, but he's over in the States, and it's Efe Ajagba. Now Efe Ajagba, was it last year or the start of this year when he had that? It was last year, actually. It was last August, was when I first became aware of him, when he fought Curtis Harper. He was supposed to fight Curtis Harper, and he walked out of the ring. I think that's when a lot of people started to kind of, take note of Efe Ajagba and kind of get to see, this guy, oh, he's a big puncher, big, tall, lanky, Nigerian heavyweight based in the States. I think he's with PBC. A lot of people were comparing him to Deontay Wilder, from a physical point of view, the big puncher, stuff like that. And at the start of this year, a lot of people were still talking about him. He obviously got that win over Amir Mansour. Amir Mansour is close to 50 now. He's seen better days, but still, he was going through a lot of these guys. He was looking good in wins. He was getting guys out of there. It was spectacular knockouts. People were really kind of starting to big this guy up and saying, where's this guy going to go? Then he fought a guy called Ali Desmarin, who was undefeated at the time. Went the distance with him. Gave away a couple of rounds, didn't look as explosive in that fight, I don't say he didn't impress, but I think a lot of people kind of thought, Efe Ajagba, maybe we should take the brakes off. And one thing I found as well is that when a fighter, especially a heavyweight fighter, goes the distance, automatically they're feather-fisted. I remember when Daniel Dubois fought Kevin Johnson, he went the distance. Kevin Johnson, spoiler, he's, at this stage, he's just a spoiler. The end of the day, he's going the distance with loads of people. There are people putting up pictures of Dubois with feathers on his fist, saying Dubois can't punch, this, that and the other. Obviously this year is shown differently that Dubois obviously is a big puncher, he can punch. There's nothing uncommon about fighters going the distance. At the end of the day, if someone's there to survive, they can go the distance. And a lot of times knockout ratio isn't always indicative of how hard a fighter can hit. I go back to the interview I done with Spike O'Sullivan there, I think a couple of days ago now. We obviously chatted for a little bit after that interview. Obviously it wasn't recorded. And, I think I brought up punchers, who the guys he's fought, who he's, we've been hit by. And he said, apart from David Lemieux, the hardest he was ever hit was by a guy called Luke Keeler. Luke Keeler, some of you may know, is fighting Demetrius Andre at the end of January, end of this month. Luke Keeler has 4 knockouts on his resume. He's only got something like a 20% KO ratio. And he said Luke Keeler is the second hardest puncher he's ever been in the ring with. And they never fought. It was all sparring. He said Luke Keeler's power is for real. Alright, but you wouldn't think that, judging by his record. Only something like a 20% knockout ratio. If you look at Luke Keeler when he fought Luis Aries, he hurt him worse than Danny Jacobs ever did. Although Danny Jacobs did a better job, Keeler had him hurt worse. So yes, knockout ratio was not always indicative of how hard someone hits. Let that be said. But I saw Efe Ajagba's last fight against Ago Calzadi, I think is how you pronounce the guy's name. He was 26-5, was stopped 5 times, was stopped by guys like Joe Joyce, was stopped by Michael Hunter, was stopped by Adam Kalnacki. Who else was he stopped by? He was stopped down at cruiserweight. Alright. Not noted as a decent puncher by any stretch of the imagination. And Efe Ajagba in that fight hurt him early on, hurt him a couple of times early on, and then put his opponent, name I'm not going to try and pronounce, not going to try and butcher, put his opponent down, had him on rubbery legs, and then walk into a right hand that wasn't really thrown with massive authority. And Ajagba was down and hurt badly. That's worrying. Now, that is very worrying if you're coming up and you're getting hurt by guys like this, guys who he hasn't won a fight since the end of 2017. You know, his last 5 fights are 4 losses and a draw. 4 losses and a draw. That's not good. You're getting dropped by someone like that when they're hurt. They're on unsteady legs. They're moving back, and the punch wasn't thrown with massive force. If you're getting knocked down or hurt by him, and yeah, Ajagba got him out there in decisive fashion, that's fair enough. But still, that's not a good look. And moving forward, people were talking about Ajagba. Could he fight someone like a Dominic Brazil? In 2020, could he fight maybe an Adam Kalnacki, someone like that? Could we see this guy move up, maybe fight Charles Martin? Charles Martin, maybe, because Charles Martin's shown that he has a bit more heart than the Anthony Joshua fight suggests. But even still, I'm thinking Efe Ajagba, maybe we really do need to pull the brakes on this guy. He has a problem in a sense that I'm worrying about his chin. I'm worrying about his defense, because he does seem to get a bit reckless when he's starting to go for guys. And even if you look at his amateur resume, people keep saying that he was a good amateur, and he definitely was. But whenever he stepped up, if you look at his amateur record, whenever he stepped up and fought, the who's who of the heavyweight amateurs, he lost. He looked good getting some knockouts at the lower end of the spectrum in the amateur games, but he lost whenever he stepped up. Amateur boxing, pro boxing, completely different. That has to be said. But still, you can take something from that whenever he stepped up, he lost. He's fighting guys who they're not even gatekeepers. They're kind of higher class journeymen. They'd be like a Joey DeWaco, it'd be a higher class journeyman, and he's losing again. Well, he's not losing, but he's getting dropped and hurt bad against them. It's not a good look. And the name I mentioned there, Joey DeWaco. Joey DeWaco would be an interesting fight for Ajagba. I wouldn't mind seeing him against him, because I think that would be a good kind of gauge to where he's at. Because I in one sense, I think that fight he had, even though it didn't do him good in a sense of, he didn't look good doing it, but I think maybe that'll pump the brakes on him. Because maybe the guys who were handling him could have thought, after the Amir Mansour fight, maybe we're ready to push Efe Ajagba, here. Maybe they'll see that and think, we got a lot of work to do with this guy. Never mind pushing him, here. We're going to bring him, straight back to here, sort of way. So I think the brakes are going to get pushed on Ajagba a bit. In terms of where he's going to go in 2020, I don't see any title fights on the horizon. I don't see any top 10, top 15 heavyweights at all. I think if you look at PBC, when you look at guys like Kalnacki, as I said, maybe Dominic Brazil, people like that, no, stay away from them in 2020 anyway. Charles Martin, maybe, or a Joey DeWaco, yeah, they're interesting fights. Even somebody like, I know he's a top ranked fighter, so it's unlikely you're going to get this, but even someone like a Brian Jennings, I say maybe Steph, you're Efe Ajagba, you want to keep him away from them guys for this year anyway. Use this year to kind of see where he's at and gradually build it. He doesn't need to be fighting these knockover jobs, anymore. When I look at some of the knockovers he's had, he's fighting guys like Nick Jones, Curtis Harper, Dale Long. They'd be fighting those guys. He's better than that, but doesn't definitely need to go too far up the ladder. Guys like Joey DeWaco, good, solid opponents. Joey DeWaco's a tough guy as well at getting rounds. Joey DeWaco can punch a bit himself. So guys like that, I think, will be good for Ajagba moving forward this year. So it'll be interesting to see how he's matched. I think definitely the brakes are going to get pulled a little bit on him. I do think maybe he was kind of, I don't want to say rushed, but I think maybe they were looking to match him a little bit tougher for 2020, and I think that last performance is going to pull the brakes a little bit on him. So it'll be interesting to see where Ajagba goes. The thing about Ajagba is, he can still punch. He's still dangerous. So would other prospects who are up and coming be willing to face him? Would he be, in there with guys who are up and coming in the heavyweight division? That's another question. It's another good question, because even though he's looked vulnerable, he's still explosive. He still looks dangerous, for a lot of heavyweights out there. I'm sure there are even top 10 heavyweights out there who look at him like someone like a Jared Washington. Jared Washington would be an interesting fight, because Jared Washington can punch a little bit himself. He's athletic. There's not much spirit there, but he's still a tough guy. Would Jared Washington look at Ajagba and think, I could hurt this guy, but do I really want to take that risk? I think the guy who Washington knocked out, Hellenius, that fight can be made. It'd be an interesting fight because Helenius limited heavyweight, very limited, but Helenius can punch. Ask Dylan White, he'll tell you. So that's an interesting fight, I gotta think. So they're kind of some ideas that I'd have for Ajagba, in 2020 moving forward. It'd be interesting to see if any of those fights get made. Now, it has to be said. But yeah, those are my thoughts on this. Let me know what you think down below. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like. Subscribe, of course, if you're new. Let me know what you think down below. Hope you enjoyed it. And as always, I will talk to you after.